But if you're in the stressful mode from whatever reason, whether you have been quarreling with your partner or you've been drinking alcohol or you have been training too much, for example, then the heart rate will beat at a very steady beat, just like a metronome. And these devices can tell then if you are in the relaxed state or in the stressful state and give you information if this stress that you are living with is sustainable or not, compatible with good health. Shows a window into our physiology that can help us live healthier.
Thank you so much for joining us on another awesome episode of Bioenergetics Beat. I'm Heather Gray, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and certified bioenergetic practitioner. And today is brought to you today by Nikki, Unleashing the Wellness Within. It's a non-invasive, easily affordable, highly effective approach to wellness. It's a wearable device that puts frequency better based life in your hands and on your wrist. You're going to want to make sure to stick to the very, very end because as usual, we have a really awesome giveaway you're not going to want to miss out on. But you're not going to want to miss out on one word my next guest has to say because I've been looking at his bio. He's ridiculously, it's so impressive. Like I'm so geeking out. Can't wait to get into this conversation today. I know you guys are going to love it. Let's welcome Dr. Torkil to the show.
Thank you, Heather. Great to be here.
Did I pronounce your name right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah?
I think so. Yeah. Torkil Færø is good. Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay. I meant to ask you that before we started recording and I totally spaced it off. Because it is a little different for those of us over here in the US.
It's a Norwegian name with funny letters, so it was a good pronunciation. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I try my best. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like how on earth did you get into this line of work? Why are we talking about the pulse cure? What made you decide to write a book? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, that's a long story, but main part of the story,
gotta shorten it.
Yeah, I gotta shorten it. I'm
We only got 30 minutes.
Yeah, a medical doctor. My father died at 73. I decided that what I knew from medical school was not enough on how to create health so that I could live longer than those 73 years because I want to be functional and vital into my 90s and still be able to explore the world. So I understood that there's so much more now that we know about how to create health by our lifestyle. And after some while, I understood that we have devices tracking heart rate variability, like watches and smart rings. There's kind of almost an explosion in those devices right now. And that the lifestyle changes that work would be visible in our heart rate. And that is why for the last 5 years, I've been using different devices. First an ECG monitor, and after a while, then Garmin watches and Oura rings and so on. And I wrote a book about it 2 years ago. Been a huge bestseller in Norway. Really changed much of how the healthcare, how people interested in their health will look at their health. And it's been translated into 7 languages, and it's been changed my life, that's for sure. So that is part of the story. So it's much longer, of course, but
I love the biohacking world, and I love, it's funny. So the founder of Freemedica and the Nikki, Stephen Davis, at any given time, you can find like 10 different devices on his body. Laugh that when he goes through, a metal detector, it's like one of those shows where the bad guys like taking out guns and knives and just throwing them down, but he just keeps throwing down, biohacking tools. Like I love my ring, and then I love, wearing the Nikki. And then what the beautiful thing is about being able to track is you can see these different. So like right now too, I also have I have an energy blanket, a crystal blanket wrapped around me, and I've been able to see from my tracking device my stress level drop by like 15 points a day and 25 points at night.
Oh, cool.
Like that's huge, right?
Yeah.
So how awesome are these things that we're able to track? And what are some of the things that you like to track? And kind of what does it tell us about our health?
Yeah, so the most important would be heart rate variability, the variation between heartbeats that can decide whether you are in the parasympathetic restful mode or in the sympathetic stressful mode. And of course, at any time, I can push my Garmin watch and I can see that, okay, my stress level is a certain point, from 1 to 100. And I can decide, okay, I want to calm down, and you can see it immediately on the device. And also, it's important to find out, the heart rate variability during sleep, because that is also very important. And the reason why we can see this in the heart rate is that when you're in the parasympathetic restful mode, the recovery mode, then when you breathe in, the heart rate goes up because your lungs is full of oxygen. And when you breathe out and there's less oxygen, the heart will save some power and slow down a little bit, measured in milliseconds. But if you're in the stressful mode from whatever reason, whether you have been quarreling with your partner, or you've been drinking alcohol, or you have been training too much, for example, or you are in the PMS period of your cycle, then the heart rate will beat at a very steady beat, just like a metronome. And these devices can tell then if you are in the relaxed state or in the stressful state, and give you information if this stress that you are living with is sustainable or not, compatible with good health. And it shows a window into our physiology that can help us live healthier, because we're not really equipped from our senses to feel this. We have excellent senses towards the outward threats, throughout evolutionary history. We have good eyesight, good sense of smell and hearing and touch and all of this. But the sense of inner stress has never been needed. It's only in our day, modern age, that the diseases that trouble us comes from too much stress on the inside. So there's no alarm system in our bodies for too much stress until it's way too late. When you really feel it, then you're in a burnout situation, and these devices would warn you way before that you're heading that way.
I love this conversation because I don't know how it is over in oh my gosh, I had a brain fart.
Norway.
Norway, thank you. Oh my gosh. I don't know how it is over there in Norway, but over here, we've been brainwashed into a pill for every ill, right? So a lot of times when these
Yeah.
things happen, and the biggest gift that somebody can do for their health is lowering their stress level, right? Finding times of calm, removing stress from their life, whether it's, I'm going through a divorce, whether it's, relationship
Mm,
stress or boss stress or work stress. However, whatever the stress is, it's affecting you, right? Like, and trying to
mm,
get people to understand that they have um, control. They have some control
mm,
over the situation, and they don't have to be at stress.
mm.
And
Yeah.
it takes more than just a pill. So how awesome that you're having this conversation.
Yeah, and when you start measuring your heart rate, you see that the stress does not only come from familiar sources that you mentioned, it can come from ultra-processed food. It can come from the alcohol that you had the day before. It can come from altitude. You're in Colorado. If you go from sea level up to Denver and even higher, it will affect your stress levels. You don't have the same capacity as there is less oxygen at your altitude. So there will be many surprises when you start tracking your heart rate. And then you can start to mitigate the stress, and reduce. You stop eating late night meals, you stop eating maybe 3 hours before you go to bed. You cut down on the alcohol, and do many different things, because when you see it clearly on your device, it's so much easier to do something and navigate your stress.
You can't be in denial anymore. I would go to these
Yeah.
health conferences, and I don't typically drink, but I'd go to these health conferences and I would be social and I might have a drink or two. And then the next morning, my sleep would be trash and I would see all these stress spikes, from the alcohol, but I
Yeah.
passed out. So I thought I had a good night's sleep and
Yeah.
I didn't.
And I used to do all the mistakes in my book. I've done all of them, even as a doctor. I even used to think that taking 2 glasses of wine every evening would help me to wind down and calm down, But of course, when you see it, as you're saying on your wearable, you see it, that's the worst stressor of all. And according to Whoop, which have this, American company having a bracelet, and tracking their customers, they can tell that the worst stressor of all, that is alcohol. And the second biggest stressor actually is altitude. So
Well,
before disease, altitude is even worse. Then of course that is when you go from sea level and up to the altitude, and not while you're staying at the altitude.
I've always struggled at the altitude here. I've wanted to move out of Colorado for quite some time with my chronic history of Lyme and mold toxicity, and then I had a
Mm,
deviated septum and I wasn't getting a whole lot of air in. So it's like I can't breathe.
mm. Yeah, and you would see from your wearable, for example, if you have sleep apnea, or you would see that there's a lot of stress at night, and you can then find out that okay, it may be sleep apnea if you don't find any other reason for it. And so many people have that, for example. And then it could help, for example, to tape your mouth. Probably a lot of people do that, and so many people contact me on Instagram and saying that when they tape their mouth, they can see it on their heart rate variability throughout the night. That it's working. Yeah.
I've been taping my mouth for 2 years now. I absolutely swear by it. I did it because I was getting a bunch of cavities and I didn't know why. I'm like, I take such good care of my teeth. Where's the cavities coming from? It's because I was a mouth
Mhm.
breather at night. But
Yeah.
this is a great spot. We're going to take a quick second for a commercial break. When we come back, I want to dive deeper into this conversation because it's just fascinating. But don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
There's a new word for wellness, Nikki. Nikki, the bioenergetic wearable designed to help you feel better and perform better. Other wearables just track how you're doing. Nikki is about helping you do better. Touch the Nikki screen to choose the frequency you want for what you want to do and how you want to feel. Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. Wearenikki.com.
Hey, I'm Steve. I'm an engineer, a biohacker, and a dad, and I love my Nikki. I use 3 different programs on this one mostly. In the mornings, I run Energy Boost, which honestly is about the equivalent of a cup of coffee. I still have my coffee, but this does make a difference. After work, I run my stress and anxiety program, and that takes me from being like, task mode from work to really kind of chilled out dad mode, which is nice. And occasionally when I need it, I run the pain program as well. I actually tore my ACL last September, middle of September, and I was running again by middle of October. No surgery, no therapy, just the pain program once a day. So I've worked with red light therapy for several years now, and like I said, this is just about my favorite because it is so easy to use. I just put it on my wrist in the morning, run it all day, don't even notice it's there except for how I feel, so I love it.
Nikki Wellness Technology. Delivering frequency enhanced health. Wearenikki.com.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. So, yeah, let's dive in a little deeper. So, there's a couple questions on here, and it makes sense. Like physics, it talks about when you observe something, you change the actual course of it, right? So, how is it that when we track our pulse, how is it not causing more stress?
Because in the beginning it may. So a lot of people, when they get this insight into their system, and of course, as 80% of the diseases that we treat as doctors come from too much stress in a broad sense, and then inflammation. So most people will see that they are much more stressed than they would hope for. I was shocked, when I saw my own results because I'm a calm person and I'm never in fight or flight mode. So I would expect them to see only like green numbers all over, but I could clearly see that I was too much stressed. And that, of course, is a bit stressful. But then you start getting control of it. And I did not have a guidebook. The Pulse Cure is actually the world's first guidebook on how to navigate this. So I didn't have any guidebook. So I had to find this out for myself and then suddenly realize, okay, it's the food that is stressing me. It's the alcohol. I was using some kind of nicotine that we use in Norway to put under our lips, which was stressing me out totally, so much. And so that can be stressful for people. But once you get control of it, and particularly with the guidance, of the book and so on, so then you start clearing away the obstacles for your rest, and you get control of it. So for most people, it's more like a gamification. They think it's fun. So many people, and that has been the conversation also in Norway, that, oh, will it not just be stressful? But that it was never coming from people who have tried it, because then you see that it's not stressful. It's like the dashboard in your car. So what these wearables do is to give you this dashboard for your own physiology. And you basically use it just as a dashboard in your car. You just check, okay, my speed is okay. The outside temperature is so and so. I have so much gas left on my tank, and there's such a long distance to where I'm going, so I should be there in 15 minutes, you know. And we're driving all the time and relating to these numbers. And then this is a way to get the same numbers for your own physiology, your body temperature, your oxygen level, your heart rate variability, your VO2 max, and so on. So and your level of movement. So it's just like getting a dashboard for your own physiology, which makes it easier to live safely. You know, you have the dashboard in your car to drive safely, and you need this to live safely within your, you know, your capacity.
Absolutely. And I'm a recovering type A personality, and the gamification part of it's really awesome. Like when I was married, I'm like, I got a 91 last night and he got like a 56. But it was just
Mhm.
such a funny to see, okay, well, he's going to be kind of short and not very pleasant to be around today. So like this
Mm.
information was really great to, in a relationship, knowing how to navigate the other person. Have you
And
seen?
and that is also what you say about being a type A person. So I think that maybe the most important thing about this is that it keeps type A, particularly women, still be able to work, you know, and not crashing in a burnout situation, because that's the risk of getting there is so high. I'm sure that you will know several of your female friends have been in that situation of a burnout and being tired and fatigued and so on. And it's almost like an epidemic in Norway, and probably all around the world. So maybe the most important thing about these devices is that they can keep people on track. It's like a guard. These devices is like a guardrail on the road that keeps you from just getting over the side of the road and into the ditch where you don't want to crash.
Absolutely. So you did bring up women. Is there a difference between men and women and when they track? And is there a certain group that finds more success or benefit from tracking?
Absolutely. So that would be women both in the fertile, you know, with, well, they still have their cycle, and also in the perimenopause and menopause. So in the menstrual cycle, you can see clearly that the week before menstruation, the PMS period, is really rough. It's a physiological load on your system. You can see it in the heart rate variability, that it's as hard as a tough COVID infection. And then it's like for so many women, it's like having COVID for a week every month. And for the ones who have PMDD, the more severe kind of it, you know, where they can be 10 or 12 days in this stressful mood or situation, then I can see it's really, really hard. And when you can see that you are able to mitigate the stress, you see that, okay, I shouldn't work as hard today. I should skip the workout and do some yoga or breath work instead. I should at least skip the chocolate and the glass of wine that you so crave because you feel so poorly, you know. Because you will see that this just creates even more stress, and it gets just worse. And then many people and many women are able to flatten this curve, so they are relieved of the symptoms. So it makes life so much easier, because cortisol and stress will backfire on the female reproductive hormones and create symptoms. And not only symptoms, a low heart rate variability over time is connected with infertility, with endometriosis, with polycystic ovarian syndrome, with a tendency to spontaneous abortions, and then also cancer in different ways. So you could really pick out any disease or condition you could think of and add heart rate variability when you Google, or when you do it on your AI, ChatGPT or so, and you will see that there's a connection to almost any kind of disease. Because if you have a low heart rate variability as a sign that your body and physiology is under pressure, with not enough, you know, forces or energy available for the immune system, you can contract any kind of disease, you know, including common colds and flu and cancer and dementia and what have you, because it's a general sign that your system is working poorly.
I'm so glad that we're finally starting to get this data because as a woman being shoved to work in a man's world, right, under man's schedule, because you guys have got way different cycles than we do. I remember it just being absolutely horrific going to work on some of those days, my brain not working, just being exhausted. And how awesome would it be to where we could actually listen to our bodies and be like, no, no, this is a day where I really should take half a day, or you know what I mean? Like being able to really honor a woman's
Yeah,
cycle.
absolutely. And with a Garmin watch, for example, you would get up with a body battery. They have a body battery system of maybe, 35. Whereas in the other parts of the cycle, it would be 90 or 100. So you would be able to see clearly, okay, today I don't have as many physiological resources available to me. And it's so much easier to see then, of course.
Absolutely. I love that you brought up the eating part because that was always kind of shocking to me because I kind of thought I used to think that I had kind of low blood sugar issues, but it turned out that if I eat right before I go to bed, it pisses my body off all night long. Like the
Yeah.
stress spikes that happen. So can you talk a little bit more about when and when to what and when to eat?
Yeah, most people, when they start tracking, they find that restricted eating window of maybe from 6 to 9 hours, maybe from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. or somewhere in that neighborhood is better for their stress levels. Skipping breakfast, that your gut, the system, the very vulnerable system in your gut, your stomach, your small intestines, your large intestines, that they get enough downtime to recover and repair. Because they need a lot of time for that. So if you start eating at 7 a.m. in the morning and your last meal is at 10, then your intestines is really, totally free of work, maybe 5 hours over the 24 hours, and it's not enough. So that you will get inflammation and leaky gut. So what you need to do is just stop eating. That's the most important thing. Stop eating maybe 3 hours before you go to bed, at least before that. Then you have not kind of disturbed the digestional system when it's not supposed to work. So that is a problem. We have a circadian rhythm in all our cells that will work, good at some parts of the day. And from the digestional system, that is daytime. So you're kind of waking up a system that just wants to go to sleep and not be working at that time. So most people will see it on their wearables just like you did and will stop eating at 7. And it's so much more motivating when you see the result and you can pat yourself on the back that, oh, this worked. It was a bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but you can see the result and feel it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, with the Nikki watch too, frequency can seem a little woo-woo to folks, but frequency, energy, light, it's how our cells communicate. And so how awesome it is to be able to use these kind of wearable devices to like I said, see, my crystal blanket. And I used to have other EMF devices, blocking devices that didn't actually move the needle. And I'm loving the world that's opening up to these when you start tracking and wear these wearables. So which devices do you like to promote?
It's mostly Garmin, I would say. To micromanage your stress like this that I'm talking about, that you can see that, okay, it was the meeting from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock that disturbed me so much, and you're able to identify that this meeting on Mondays that's a trouble for me. So before I go into the meeting, maybe I should do some breath work and practice some slow breathing while I'm in this meeting. For example, that is the Garmin that could do that. But of course, for some people, it's a bit stressful that you always have the insight into this dashboard. So other people may want to have rings like the Aura ring or the Samsung Galaxy ring, that is less intrusive or invasive kind of in your attention. Um, and most of the wearables, most of the smartwatches will give you some value that can help you to navigate this. But Garmin being both among the cheapest ones and the best ones. So it's also an American product. I was actually having a lecture at the Garmin headquarters in Kansas not so long ago after I was running the New York Marathon, and then they invited me over because they could see the success it had in Norway and just wanted to me to show them, because I'm not even sure that they know the value of their product, because they know it in regards to athletes, but not so much in regard to daily life. So they were actually quite surprised when I could tell them everything that we can find out, for normal people also.
Normal people,
Normal people,
quote unquote.
non-athletes.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And they sound boring. No. So
Yeah.
you gave me a great idea though, because I love doing experiments with this thing. So I have been noticing a stress spike at midnight almost every night for the past week now. I don't know what that is or why, but I'm going to put this Nikki on the stress and anxiety frequency before I go to bed tonight and see if I still get that stress spike, right? 'Cause that's
Yeah,
what you were
cool.
talking about, right? Like being able to
Yeah.
tweak things, because I am constantly trying to dial in my sleep, because sleep is
Yeah.
my religion. Like that is
Yeah.
right.
By,
That's
by far the most important thing. So that is also the chapter 1 in the Pulse Cure.
nice.
You start with sleep because then you also get the energy to make some tougher, more challenging choices throughout the day, so that you don't, feel tired and take this chocolate, or so that's the basis of it, to get some good sleep. And it's important also to say that as doctors, we usually relate to averages from research studies, but that doesn't mean anything to the individual, because when you see the different people in the studies, you see that they're all over the chart. So these devices will tell you how you react to a certain thing, like how you, for example, will react to taping your mouth. While for me, it doesn't matter much, because I obviously sleep with my mouth shut, so it will not be so much visible. But for people who are mouth breathers during the night, it will be very effective, for example. So it shows us our individual physiology, and we are very individual. So this is personalized medicine. So it's a huge shift actually in power. It's a shift in power from the doctors and the practitioners and the healthcare system, and takes the power into your own hands, literally. And from maybe every second month that you are with your doctor, and until like 24/7 access to maybe the most important numbers that you can get. And so it's a huge shift, and also a shift from waiting until you get sick and then get some pills or procedures or surgical procedures, and until doing some effort to avoid getting sick. And the good thing is about all the strategies in the Pulse Cure is free. It doesn't cost any money. It's available to everyone. It's breath work. It's free to sleep. It's free to be out in nature. It's free to be cold. Cold is actually quite a lot better, taking cold showers, and it's terrible to be there. I had a cold plunge today, in the icy water. But after that, my body is calm for hours. And when you see that, it gets motivating to get out into the cold, because I used to hate cold. I used to not swim in Norway at any time of the year. It was too cold for me. I would only swim in the Caribbean or in the Pacific. So, but when you see it on your watch, it becomes this kind of a game, and suddenly you can tolerate it, and you build this tolerance for temperature that will, it will help you, because we're living in room temperature. So it's kind of a comfort crisis, that we are too comfortable, and we need to challenge our bodies, both regarding movement but also temperature. It builds more resilience and higher capacity, so that we can tolerate more stress. So through these hormetic activities, as it's called, voluntary activities where you push yourself within your control, um, builds you stronger, and you can tolerate more. And one other thing that these devices, many of them will show you, is your VO2 max. So it will show you your fitness level, and that is also important. So the VO2 max is maybe the most important predictor of a healthy life and a long life, because it shows that you have good mitochondria, you have a good capacity, you can be doing daily activities without straining yourself, and you would be able to see that on your monitor.
You've brought up chocolate a few different times. What's your problem with chocolate, doctor?
It gives you stress.
It gives you stress. How? Why?
It gives you
Even
stress.
good chocolate?
That may be differences. There may be differences, but what most people are shocked by is that they would think that they are resting, watching Netflix and eating chocolate or candy bars or whatever, or crisps or whatever, and they would think that, okay, I'm relaxing, check, finish with that, I can do something. But when you see your heart rate responding to, for example, chocolate, for example, eating pizza, crisps, then you see that you're not really relaxing. Your body is in an inflammatory state and is really struggling with what you put into it. And so many people give me the answer that the chocolate. The other day, I was going to a fasting mimicking retreat. And the day before that, I got a delayed Christmas gift, a box full of chocolates. And I thought, okay, I'm going on a fasting retreat. I'll just put all this into my system. And the stress level was just incredible. It's probably, of course, the dose makes the poison. So, but of course, if you eat a lot of chocolate, it will be visible. And then it's easier to make choices that to prioritize. Okay, I will have this chocolate, knowing that this will be the result, and think I'm still okay with that. It's okay, I can do that. I can tolerate this level of stress now. So the most important thing is to know this, and maybe another kind of chocolate will give you less stress. Maybe.
That'll be fun. Oh, well, that's a fun experiment I'm going to work on this week. Um,
Find the least stressful chocolate. That's a good project.
right? I'm on it. Challenge accepted. So
Yeah.
this is the shameless plug time of the show. So where can people
Mhm.
find more about you, find your book,
Mhm.
that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so they can find my book anywhere on Amazon. It's a paperback, but it's also an ebook that you can get on your Kindle and an Audible. It's read by an English-speaking person, but that probably just sounds charming, even in the US. But many podcast listeners would like to listen to a book rather than read it. So that's
I'm a
also
fan of
possible.
listening, and I have one
Yeah.
credit on my Audible. Now I know where it's going.
Yeah. So I think the book is kind of a 7-hour book, somewhere in the neighborhood of that, and then you will know the most important hacks to live a long and healthy life. So I just kind of try to push all these things in together to the most effective way. And the luck then, as I said, is that when you do something right, it's visible in the heart rate. Your heart will respond to it, which shouldn't be such a surprise for doctors as it is for many doctors. It's kind of the monitor that we already know will respond to it. We use a heart rate all the time at the ER where I work to see the severity of any kind of disease. But these instruments can be on your hand, on your wrist at all times, and give you much more access to important information. And now that we have artificial intelligence and big data, it hugely powerful tool for people to use.
Absolutely. So make sure to go check out his book. Also, make sure to go to wearenikki.com/podcast, enter in BioBeats to get 10% off. And because we really love our customers and as a way of showing our appreciation, we want to give away a Nikki device with the wellness set of frequencies on every show. It's a $598 value, so make sure to go check out the show notes to figure out how to enter and win. Good luck to you. Thanks for joining us, and make sure to have a healthy day. Bye-bye.
The very first day that I wore the device, I slept through the night, which is amazing.
It looks like a little watch, but it's actually a frequency device. It's bioenergetic, so it has this little frequency light situation that goes into your arm, and it pretty much makes an immediate difference.
So there's like a sleep mode. When I go mountain biking, I throw it on energy booster. Once I'm done mountain biking, I actually switch it to the other mode they have is pain and relief.
When I'm in a stressful situation and I put it on, it helps me almost immediately. I immediately feel calmer, whether that's a frequency or me knowing that it's working or knowing that it's helping in addition to that.
One of my buddies was like, do not discount this. This is an amazing device. You've got to give it a chance.
It's got so many options. I'm just going to go over, it's like a menu that you can choose. It's so easy to use. You just click on what you like. For example, it's got travel, pain relief, energy boost, allergies.
I really, really love this device. In fact, I have two of them because when one is charging, I want to wear the other because I'm never without it.
It will never give you something when your body doesn't need and it is not natural. That's what I love about the device.
Put it on focus, maybe halfway through the day as I was losing focus. And within about 10 minutes of turning on, I feel like my brain is just like, I'm connected. Like, wow.
Trying all the frequencies and I love it. The one I'm using right now out on my walk is energy. It just energizes me. And I'm finding that I've got more stamina and more energy than I thought I would.
My Nikki helps me sleep better at night and helps me feel less stressed.
I really been enjoying it. So I've noticed my energy's been up. I've been sleeping better.
So the Nikki is one price, and then you pay for the frequency sets separately. So you can get the wellness one, which is awesome. I really do love the new Lime frequencies so much. It's incredible.
Nikki Wellness Technology. Delivering frequency enhanced health. wearenikki.com. The views, information, and opinions expressed in this content are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of FreeMedica. FreeMedica Technologies, Inc. and its employees are not responsible, nor verifies accuracy any of the information contained in the following content. The primary purpose of this content is to educate and inform. This content does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services.